He was a poor boy living on the streets when a 65-year-old woman offered him food, shelter, and then asked him to marry her. Everyone thought it was crazy, but just 7 days after the wedding, he discovered a truth so shocking, it changed his life forever. Trust me, you won't believe what she was hiding. What is he thinking? Someone whispered. Is he marrying her? For money? Another voice followed. The guests didn't even try to hide their stares as 22-year-old Darius walked down the aisle in a borrowed tuxedo. The woman waiting for him at the altar, Eleanor, was 65, graceful and elegant, but clearly old enough to be his grandmother. Darius kept his head high, but his heart raced like thunder. He could hear the silent judgment in the room. He wasn't from her world. He was the boy from the shelter, the boy with nothing. But today, he was getting married. How did it come to this? Just weeks earlier, Darius had been living on the streets of Atlanta. After losing both parents in a car accident, he'd bounced between foster homes and eventually aged out of the system. With no family, no college education, and barely any food, Darius was surviving on scraps and prayers. Then, on one rainy afternoon, everything changed. He met Eleanor. She found him outside a small cafe, shivering, soaked, and hungry. Instead of walking past like the others, she offered him her umbrella, then a warm meal, then a place to stay. I live alone, she had said. And honestly, I could use the company, but it didn't stop there. Eleanor began caring for Darius like no one ever had. She listened to him, encouraged him, believed in him. So when she proposed something completely unexpected, he froze. Darius, she said one night, I want you to marry me. He laughed. Why would a woman like you want to marry me? You'll understand one day, she said, her eyes filled with something strange. And just like that, he said yes. After the wedding, Eleanor brought Darius to her estate, an enormous, beautiful, almost castle-like home on the outskirts of Savannah. The walls were lined with old paintings, velvet curtains, and the scent of roses and mystery. It was peaceful, but too peaceful. There were rooms she told him not to go into, a locked door on the second floor, and a box in her room that she'd never let him touch. Still, Eleanor was kind. She cooked for him, bought him clothes, and helped him apply for college. But every time he asked about her past, she'd say, There are things better left in yesterday. At first, Darius respected her privacy. After all, she'd saved him. But curiosity started to eat at him. Who was this woman really? Why did she live all alone? And why did she marry him? A total stranger. On the 6th night of their marriage, Darius heard a sound, a faint voice, a whisper, coming from the locked room. He tiptoed down the hall, his heart racing. He pressed his ear to the door and froze. He doesn't know yet. It was Eleanor's voice. He reminds me of him, same eyes, same soul. Darius stepped back, confused and a little scared. The next morning, he tried to act normal, but something had shifted. Later that day, Eleanor handed him a key. I know you've been wondering, she said softly. Tomorrow, go into that room. You'll find everything you're looking for. But why wait? He asked. Because if you had known too soon, you might have left. That night. Darius didn't sleep. What secret was she hiding? And why did he feel like his entire life was about to change? The next morning, hands shaking, Darius walked toward the door and unlocked it. What he saw inside made him collapse into the chair. The walls were covered in photographs of Eleanor, of a man who looked like him, and of a little boy with eyes exactly like his. In the center of the room was a journal. On the first page, it read, To my son, if you ever find your way back to me. Darius read on in disbelief. Eleanor had a child 22 years ago, a son named Marcus, but life hadn't been kind. Her ex-husband had taken the baby and disappeared without a trace. She had searched for years, but never found him, until one rainy day, when she saw a young man on the street, so much like the son she'd lost, she had him DNA tested without telling him. It was him. Darius was her grandson. His mother, Eleanor's daughter-in-law, had died years ago. And Marcus, killed in a robbery when Darius was just a baby. Eleanor had no one left. She had been watching him for weeks before approaching. Not wanting to scare him away, she offered marriage. Not for romance, but to bring him close, to protect him, and eventually, to tell the truth. Darius dropped the journal, tears running down his face. His entire life he'd felt abandoned, unloved and forgotten. But here was the truth. He wasn't alone. He never was. Eleanor had been looking for him his whole life. He rushed downstairs and found her sitting quietly by the fireplace. "You're my grandmother," he whispered. She nodded, eyes watery but smiling. "I didn't know how else to reach you. I thought if I told you up front, you'd think I was crazy." He hugged her tightly. No words, just tears. The truth, as wild as it sounded, had set them both free. From that day on, Darius no longer felt like a boy with nothing. He had family. He had a future. And most of all, he had a purpose. He told her they should get the marriage annulled and rebuild things as family. She laughed. "That's what I wanted all along. Not a husband, just my grandson back." Darius went on to attend college, supported by Eleanor's love and wealth. And every Sunday, they'd sit by that fireplace, no longer strangers, but finally, home. Sometimes the people we're meant to find are the ones who've been searching for us all along. Darius thought he was marrying a stranger, but he found the family he never knew he had. Never judge a story by the cover or a marriage by its age, because behind every strange moment might be a secret waiting to heal a broken heart. If stories like this inspire you or just make you curious about the world, please give this video a like. It helps us grow and share more real emotional stories with people like you.